Well, is there enough money to go around? The Canterbury Community Trust has granted over $2 million to over 100 causes across the region. But how do they pick and choose? Chelsea Daniels explains.
More than $2.8 million has been distributed to over 100 social service organisations around the region, and the Canterbury Community Trust certainly had no shortage of good causes.
And as you can imagine, post-earthquake, the complexity of social issues in Christchurch has certainly increased. There are some really serious social issues, particularly around mental health.
Canterbury Community Trust received funding requests of $5.1 million, a 6% increase from last year.
Well, there's never enough. We had requests totalling over $5 million, so there's never enough money to go around. We're one of the few philanthropic funders that fund administration as well, so we fund things like rent, operating costs, salaries, that sort of thing, that for social services organisations to basically provide their services.
The Trust conducted an independent research into Canterbury's social services sector to better equip themselves in decision-making for grants for the future.
Well, we really wanted to understand the sector and understand where the gaps were to make sure we were funding into the right places. Out of the research, we found that there's some gaps around particularly alcohol and drug treatment for support for families of people that are going through those sorts of rehabilitation and treatment. That's one particular issue. Cost of transport for rural people to be able to access social services is another real challenge.
Edwards says the sector constantly struggles with no rise in funding, but the endless growth in administration costs.
I don't think government funding itself has kept track with the needs of organisations, so you're quite right, post-earthquake rents have increased, and it's actually been really difficult for a lot of social service providers to get appropriate accommodation as well to operate from.
And Julie McCloy of Aviva couldn't agree more.
Overheads are constantly going up and a lot of funders don't want to fund that. They don't want to fund like rent and electricity, and they want to fund frontline service, which is understandable, but we can't deliver frontline service without all those other costs, and those costs do keep rising. Certainly like rent in Christchurch post-earthquake has gone up considerably.
Aviva is a specialist family violence agency that works with children, women and men who have either experienced or used family violence.
Funding is always a major challenge for us. It's really hard, especially with a subject like family violence, to get people to come on board and get behind it. So that's a real major challenge for us. Service-wise is the huge demand for our services. We really struggle to be able to afford to employ enough staff. Demand is really, really high for our services.
McCloy says that finding the right funding is crucial in order to deliver such a high demand service to Cantabrians.
And people probably don't really, which is understandable, think about that, but every business, every homeowner or renter has increased costs, and for charities it's exactly the same, and you're trying to pay all of that with a stitched together range of money that you're trying to secure.
Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.